In 2017, a viral internet manifesto penned by Scout Burns dismissed the ocean sunfish as a comprehensive biological failure. In a magnificent display of digital rage, she called the sunfish a gigantic waste of space, a plate of garbage, and a mistake that evolution forgot to delete. She pointed out its lack of a tail, its bizarrely thick skin, and its supposed inability to realize that a moving boat is a solid object until it has already crashed into it. For years, the internet has collectively pointed and laughed at this seemingly brainless 5,000-pound dinner plate, labeling it the dumbest fish alive. But what if we have been looking at this all wrong? What if the sunfish isn't an incompetent mistake, but actually the ultimate biological life hack? When you stop looking at the Mola Mola through the narrow, judgmental lens of terrestrial biology and start looking at it as an otherworldly entity, everything suddenly makes perfect sense. How does a creature this bizarre survive among Earth's hyper-optimized, high-speed apex predators? Today, we are going to dissect the alien anatomy of the sunfish. We are going to look deep into the science of how to win at life by doing the absolute minimum. Prepare for a close encounter of the aquatic kind. To truly appreciate the alien nature of the ocean sunfish, we have to start at the very beginning of its life cycle, which features an impossible metamorphosis that defies logic. When we think of animal growth, we think of proportional scaling. A human baby grows into an adult, roughly increasing its body mass by maybe 15 to 20 times. A great white shark pup grows into a massive predator, but it fundamentally looks like a shark the entire time. The sunfish does not play by these earthly rules. It is a shapeshifter. Ocean sunfish begin their lives as tiny, transparent larvae. If you were to hold a sunfish hatchling in your hand, you would barely be able to see it. It is roughly 2.5 millimeters long, which is about the size of a single kernel of unpopped popcorn. At this stage, it doesn't look anything like the giant, flat disc it will become. Instead, it looks like a microscopic, spiked fractal. It resembles a tiny pufferfish, which makes evolutionary sense, as the sunfish belongs to the order Tetraodontiformes, making it a distant cousin of pufferfish and triggerfish. But if this microscopic, spiky popcorn kernel manages to survive the brutal gauntlet of the open ocean, it initiates a growth protocol that is completely unmatched in the vertebrate world. From hatchling to adulthood, a sunfish will increase its body mass by more than 60 million times. Let that statistic sink in. 60 million times. If a human baby experienced the exact same biological growth multiplier, that adult human would end up weighing as much as 6 Titanic cruise ships. The adult Mola Mola regularly reaches weights of 1,000 to 2,000 kilograms, with some of the largest recorded specimens, and their close relatives, the Mola alexandrini, tipping the scales at over 5,000 pounds, 2,300 kilograms. They can span 14 feet vertically from the tip of their dorsal fin to the bottom of their anal fin. They hold the Guinness World Record as the heaviest bony fish on the planet. Going from a millimeter-long speck to a biological SUV is not a normal terrestrial growth spurt. It is a terrifying exponential mutation. If you handed an engineer the blueprints for a standard Earth-like fish, say a tuna or a salmon, they would note the aerodynamic torpedo-shaped body, the powerful rear tail used for thrust, and the overlapping hydrodynamic scales. The sunfish discarded these blueprints entirely in favor of a mothership design. Let's start with the propulsion system. The sunfish has no tail. Millions of years ago, as it branched off from its pufferfish ancestors, its rear end simply stopped growing and folded inward. In place of a caudal fin, it features a strange, scalloped, fleshy rudder known as a clivus. The clivus provides absolutely zero forward thrust. It is essentially a biological steering wheel attached to a vehicle with no rear engine. So, how does a 5,000-pound spacecraft move? It utilizes its massive, elongated dorsal, top, and anal, bottom fins. The sunfish sculls these two giant appendages synchronously from side to side. It looks exactly like a giant bird trying to fly in slow motion through a dense liquid. It is an incredibly bizarre form of locomotion, but it is surprisingly energy efficient, allowing the mothership to cruise vast ocean distances with minimal effort. Then there is the hull. The sunfish completely lacks normal fish scales. Instead, it is encased in a layer of skin that can reach up to 6 inches, 15 centimeters thick in certain areas. This skin is made of dense, reticulated collagen covered in a thick layer of mucus. It is biological armor that feels and acts like heavily compressed old car tires. When a great white shark or an orca encounters a sunfish, they are faced with a frustrating dilemma. Biting into a sunfish is like trying to aggressively chew through a wet, indestructible yoga mat. The hull is so thick and rubbery that predators often experience jaw fatigue. They literally get bored trying to chew through the armor and give up. The sunfish doesn't need to outswim the shark, it just needs to be too tedious to eat. Finally, we have the airlock, the mouth. A sunfish has a comically small mouth that is permanently stuck in a half-open position, giving it a look of perpetual existential shock. Its teeth are entirely fused together into a single, hard structure that looks exactly like a parakeet's beak. It cannot close its mouth, it cannot bite off huge chunks of prey, and it cannot chew. It is an opening designed for one very specific low-energy task. When the internet mocks the sunfish, the main target is its perceived stupidity. The Mola Mola is routinely dragged for being clueless, drifting blindly into boats and lacking the cognitive spark that makes animals like dolphins or octopuses so beloved by science. But once again, we are applying the wrong planetary metrics. In terrestrial biology, we view high intelligence as the pinnacle of evolution, but intelligence is expensive. Brain tissue requires a staggering amount of calories to maintain. For humans, our brains burn 20% of our daily caloric intake. If you are a 5,000-pound fish floating in the middle of the ocean, you cannot afford to waste precious battery power on complex thoughts, social anxiety, or existential dread. The sunfish has completely optimized its CPU for deep space travel. Despite its massive size, the brain of a sunfish weighs approximately 4 grams. It is the size of a small walnut. It boasts one of the lowest brain-to-body weight ratios of any vertebrate on Earth. Because of this tiny processing unit, the sunfish does not exhibit complex behaviors. It does not use tools. It does not form tight-knit family pods. It does not map out elaborate hunting strategies. Instead, it operates on a series of basic, pre-programmed survival algorithms. It is essentially a biological drone. It knows how to swim, it knows how to eat, it knows how to regulate its temperature, and it knows how to reproduce. Anything beyond that is a waste of metabolic RAM. The no thoughts, head empty lifestyle is not a glitch. It is a highly evolved battery-saving mode. By minimizing its cognitive overhead, the sunfish is able to survive on a diet that would starve almost any other apex creature in the ocean. If you pilot a giant, heavily armored mothership with a low-power CPU, what kind of fuel do you use? You certainly don't use high-octane, difficult-to-catch fuel like fast-swimming tuna or agile seals. You harvest the lowest-effort biomass available. For the sunfish, that fuel is jellyfish. The ocean sunfish is a dedicated gelativore. Jellyfish are famously devoid of nutritional value, consisting of about 95% water and 5% stinging cells. They are the marine equivalent of spicy water balloons. Because they have almost zero caloric density, the sunfish has to consume staggering quantities of them just to maintain its enormous bulk. Since the sunfish cannot chew with its parrot-like beak, it employs a mechanical grinding system. It sucks the jellyfish into its small mouth and then relies on specialized pharyngeal teeth located deep in its throat. These throat teeth act like a slow, rhythmic garbage disposal, grinding the gelatinous mass down into a slurry that can be safely digested. But modern science, using satellite tracking tags, has revealed that the drone is slightly more sophisticated than we originally thought. Sunfish don't just float at the surface eating whatever drifts by. They engage in ontogenetic vertical migration. This means the mothership actively dives deep into the ocean, sometimes plunging to depths of 800 meters, over 2,600 feet, into the dark, freezing abyss. Down there, they hunt for deep-sea siphonophores, salps, and the occasional squid or crustacean. They absorb the gelatinous biomass of the deep, then slowly rise back to the surface to process their fuel. It is a slow, relentless, mechanical harvesting of the ocean's least desirable resources. A slow-moving, massive surface area covered in thick mucus is an incredibly inviting target in the ocean. Consequently, the sunfish hull is constantly under attack by alien boarding parties. The Mola Mola is a walking, or rather floating, ecosystem. They are absolute magnets for marine hitchhikers. At any given time, a single sunfish can be infested with up to 50 different species of parasites. We are talking about crustaceans, barnacles, sea lice, flatworms, and protozoans that burrow into their skin, latch onto their gills, and take up residence in their eyes. There is even a specific species of parasitic tapeworm, Acaquilium contortum, that thrives almost exclusively inside the unique environment of the sunfish. The mothership is so heavily populated that some of the parasites living on the sunfish actually have their own microscopic parasites living on them. Because the sunfish lacks the agility to rub against rocks or the speed to shake these boarding parties loose, it has developed a brilliant passive defense mechanism. It uses the local inhabitants of planet Earth to do its dirty work. After completing a deep dive into the freezing abyss to hunt, the sunfish will return to the surface of the ocean and lie completely flat on its side. It basks in the sun, soaking up thermal radiation to recharge its cold body. But this basking serves a dual purpose. By lying flat like a massive dinner plate, the sunfish sends out a visual distress beacon to terrestrial surface dwellers, seabirds. Albatrosses, seagulls, and other opportunistic birds see this massive floating buffet land directly on the hull of the sunfish and begin violently pecking the juicy parasites right out of its rubbery skin. When the sunfish is near coral reefs or kelp forests, it will hover vertically and allow schools of specialized cleaner fish, like wrasses, to swarm its body and pick the parasites clean. It is the ultimate gig economy. The sunfish turns its own infested body into a localized economy for birds and smaller fish. It outsources its personal hygiene and medical care to entirely different species, expanding its alien influence to the skies above. If you are slow, run on a 4-gram processor and begin life as a microscopic speck. How do you ensure that your species conquers the globe? How do you beat the mathematical odds of an ocean filled with hungry predators? You don't try to outsmart them. You don't try to outfight them. You simply overwhelm the system. In biology, this is known as the R-selection strategy. Most large ocean mammals like whales or dolphins are K-selected. They have one baby, and they invest a massive amount of time, energy, and calories into protecting, nursing, and teaching that baby how to survive. The sunfish completely rejects this model. It does not waste a single milliwatt of energy on parenting. It does not build nests. It does not protect its young. It does not teach them how to grind up jellyfish. Instead, a single, mature female sunfish acts as an unstoppable planetary seeding event. When the time is right, she will release an astonishing, mind-bending 300 million eggs into the open ocean at once. 300 million. This makes the Mola Mola the single most fecund vertebrate currently known to science. It is an invasion force of microscopic spores. Statistically speaking, 99.9% of those eggs and larvae will be instantly consumed by smaller fish, swept into deadly currents, or starved within days. But when you deploy an army of 300 million, you only need a microscopic fraction of a percent to survive, grow into 5,000-pound armored discs, and reproduce again. The sunfish literally outbreeds its own mortality rate. It is an alien swarm tactic that guarantees that no matter how many are destroyed, the mothership's genetic code will continue to spread across the oceans of the world. For roughly 50 million years, this alien biology has functioned flawlessly. The sunfish successfully hacked the physics of the ocean, finding a way to thrive by doing the absolute minimum. But today, the mothership is facing a threat that its pre-programmed algorithms cannot comprehend: humans. Despite their massive invasion force of 300 million eggs, the ocean sunfish is currently listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List of threatened species. The tragic irony is that the very traits that make the sunfish a master of the natural ocean are exactly what make it so incredibly susceptible to the industrialized, chaotic machinery of human civilization. Remember their brilliant strategy of basking lazily at the surface to thermally recharge and get cleaned by birds? In the modern ocean, lying flat and motionless at the surface makes you an incredibly easy target for boat strikes. The sunfish does not have the rapid twitch muscle response to dive out of the way of a speeding commercial cargo ship or a recreational yacht. Propellers slice through their thick, rubbery hull, causing devastating and often fatal injuries. Furthermore, they are notorious victims of commercial fishing bycatch. As massive, industrialized fishing fleets drag drift gill nets and long lines through the water to catch tuna and swordfish, the slow-drifting sunfish gets caught in the crossfire. In places like California and South Africa, researchers have found that sunfish can make up a staggering percentage of the unintended catch, sometimes nearly 30% of a haul. Because they have no commercial value, they are dragged aboard, crushed by the nets, and unceremoniously tossed back into the sea to die. And finally, there is the flaw in their fuel processing. To a sunfish cruising through the water on low power mode, a floating translucent plastic grocery bag looks exactly like a delicious jellyfish. When the sunfish absorbs our plastic waste, its mechanical pharyngeal teeth cannot grind it down. The plastic blocks their gastrointestinal tracts, giving them a false sense of fullness and leading to a slow, agonizing death by starvation. The only thing capable of stopping this alien juggernaut is our own terrestrial trash and high-speed propellers. It is a sobering reminder that even the most brilliantly optimized life forms on Earth are fragile in the face of human negligence. When you stop looking at it through the lens of terrestrial biology, you realize it is an organism that has completely hacked the physics of our planet. While Earth's apex predators spend their lives locked in a high-speed, high-stress arms race, this floating mothership has quietly outlasted them all. It doesn't need to be fast, and it doesn't need to be smart. It relies on impenetrable armor, zero energy cruising, and a reproductive strategy that functions like an unstoppable planetary seeding event. It's a masterclass in alien efficiency. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.